unasikia bunduki inalia. First thing ambayo tutatuleta ni hiyo bunduki kwanza, tutakomesha.
Hoya guys, back to our YouTube channel. Hatuna power lakini haiwezi zuia mimi kukuambia nini kinajaribu kufanyika hapa nchini Kenya. Bila kupoteza time, kumbuka tena Rigathi Gachagua anapeana last warning kwa hii story ya Mandera. Juu William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga wameenda kimya, wamekataa kuaddress hii issue. And kumbuka guys, wakati ambapo Raila Odinga amekuwa upande wa opposition, Raila Odinga kitu kama hii ingekuwa asha address kitambo tena zaidi. Raila Odinga angekuwa amenyamaza venye amenyamaza, and that's why anakuwa exposed after Rigathi Gachagua kupeana warning. Nono watu wangu, mara hii sitaki kuongea zaidi watu wangu. Ensure tu like video na nasema thanks for your great support. Nyinyi ni watu wa nguvu zaidi. Kwa hivyo tusikize Rigathi Gachagua kisha tuangalie venye Raila Odinga amekuwa exposed. Raila Odinga basically huwa anafanya nini baada ya kuingia ndani ya government ya rais ambaye amekuwa elected by Kenyans after yeye kufail kuwin election. Sikiza.
Since I have been a young teenager, I've been following Baba's evolution. He never worked. In fact, at one time he was Secretary General of Kanu. So Secretary General of Kanu, then into Pentagon, then to NASA, then to CORD, then to Azimio. So all these jumps he makes, he takes his people around it, and eventually he ends up in government. Why am I saying this?
Fellow Kenyans, as a party, we are deeply concerned with the security situation in northeastern Kenya and particularly in Mandera County. We have spoken not once, not twice about our diplomacy and Kenya's interference through William Ruto on external affairs of other nations, including Somalia, Sudan, Southern Sudan, DRC, among others. The Constitution of Kenya, Article 1, reminds us all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. Yet today, that sovereignty is under siege from foreign forces and a leadership too timid or too compromised to defend it. The Democracy for the Citizens Party therefore registers its deepest outrage at the continued presence of a foreign militia from Jubaland entrenched in Mandera County and its environs. This is not just a policy misstep, it's national betrayal. Kenya, once an island of peace and stability in the Horn of Africa, has now been reduced to a staging ground for foreign forces and rival militias. This is a dangerous affront to our sovereignty and a mockery of sacrifices our gallant soldiers who fought for decades and shed blood to secure our borders. Let it be known, Kenya is not for sale. For not an inch of our soil shall ever be occupied by foreign powers. Bwana Ruto, you shall not sell our hard-earned freedom for a mess of pottage. We the people shall reclaim it. The Constitution of Kenya, Article 238, Sub-Article 1, states, national security shall be pursued in compliance with the law and with utmost respect for the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. And Article 241, Sub-Article 3, makes it clear the Kenya Defence Forces, KDF, shall defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic. The silence from the Commander-in-Chief is all telling. Little can be left for guesswork. If William Ruto's recklessness and casualness as militia from Jubaland continue to wreak havoc on the Kenyan soil is anything to go by, he must be advised that the presence of foreign militias in Mandera County is a direct violation of international law and a breach of Kenya's diplomatic obligations. DCP party therefore demands with immediate effect, 1, that Jubaland militia and all foreign militia be flushed out of our country and Kenyan soil with immediate effect. 2, that the learning institutions in Mandera, closed due to invasion by the Jubaland militia and other terrorist groups, be reopened immediately and learners be provided with security without fail. The children of Kenya should not pay the price for cowardice or business interests of William Ruto and his allies. Number 3, that the KDF be allowed to discharge its full constitutional mandate without interference from corrupt individuals in the executive who seek to mortgage Kenya's sovereignty for personal gain. Mr. William Ruto, we are putting you on notice that Kenya's territorial integrity is sacred. Our sovereignty is not negotiable. If you cannot defend the people and the Republic of Kenya from foreign invasion, not forgetting your bloody track record over the last 3 years, you know the honorable thing to do. I urge the patriotic people of Kenya to stand firm and defend our constitution, safeguard our sovereignty, and protect our children's future before it is too late. The freedom we enjoy today as a country was never given to us. Our parents went into the forest and shed blood. The DCP party reiterates that our commitment to Kenyans is anchored in justice, fairness, democracy, and accountability. We shall remain steadfast in defending the rights of all citizens, working with partners under the United Opposition banner, and ensuring that the will of the people is respected, protected, and fulfilled. God bless you. God bless Kenya. That's okay.
I'm saying this because the whole idea of coalition broad-based governments are meant to remove the accountability of the elected government to the public on the basis that the public is waiting for something better to come. So whenever they run out of patience, you say, hold on, there will be a referendum. Hold on, no, there will be NATCO. Hold on, we'll start a conclave or a conversation. Hold on, we'll start another commission. Hold on, we are going to find out what this is. So the whole purpose is that of delaying the public execution of an issue so as to buy time, and buying time in politics is actually a way of deceiving people, because in periodic elections, the next elections are on before you have time to resolve what was there before. So I want to allege that in Kenya we have been looking at the elected president, but we have been having an unelected president called Raila Odinga, who has been able to manipulate all the presidents, all of them, including Moi, because he was Secretary General of Kanu, where he entered and he became a very powerful minister. He left Kanu with half of Kanu, what we called the rainbow. Yes. Then he went to give Moi Kibaki a hell of a time until they had to break out the government of Moi Kibaki, leading to a referendum of orange and bananas. Then he went to Uhuru, and with Uhuru he went and became a project. They failed with Uhuru, and now he's with Ruto. That's Raila Odinga's enigma. He is a perpetual political player who has used his position as a king of the opposition to manipulate himself into perpetual power. So there has been no period in time since his earlier detention in the early 80s that Raila Odinga has been out of power. Not one time.
There's a lot that people say can be credited to him agitating. You see, all these cycles we're talking about, there are stages or phases to all these cycles. So when it starts as a movement that is for the people, by the people. But the person at the top is Raila Odinga in this case. And the agitation is fighting not just for justice, social justice, but fighting for all these things that affect the general public. Then it morphs slowly to negotiations, to handshakes. The question is, you've worked with him, you know him very well. Why does it change? What happens from the time? Because I remember there was a time, as a journalist, if Raila called a press briefing, and you'll get rumors, there's a report, there's going to be an earthquake.
You need to be the one.
From the Eurobonds and so on and so forth. You know things are going to be bad. And he would reveal things that are happening. You remember the Magarian brothers and all those things? It was Baba who was bringing these things up. But then slowly by slowly, things start changing. What happens?
And that is a study that will be done over time. When people look at the history of Raila Odinga and his role in Kenya, I think that history is going to start to be rewritten. And I think the first time that this became very apparent to the majority of the public was the Gen Z struggle. The Gen Z, the young people who do not know the things you are saying about what Baba has done before, came with their own time, in their own generation, in their own moment, and began to agitate for a better Kenya. And the first courtesy they gave was to Raila Odinga. And they said, Baba, stay aside. You've done your part. Now we want to do this thing our way because we have got issues we need to deal about our time, our generation. And the sad thing about this whole thing is that as much as the Gen Z blame William Ruto, they blame Baba. Because Baba came and involved himself, emancipated himself in something they had asked him not to remain. And that is the answer to your question. That was this ever for Kenya, or was it always for Baba? The other day when he was talking about the compensation of victims, the first person who was appointed into this so-called controversial victim compensation scheme was Professor Makau Mutua, a very well-known sidekick of Raila Odinga. And the question then begins, first of all, do you have justice? Are policemen arrested, charged? Are the killers of these children taken to book? Is there any form of justice, even before you talk about restitution and you talk about money? So there seems to be this upside down way of looking at, look, a life is worth X amount. I mean, the whole thinking around what Raila Odinga has stood for is now beginning to be questioned. In fact, not just by Tony Gachagua, by his own party. When you have the Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Party, Edwin Sifuna, openly saying that I differ with the decisions of the party and I'm prepared to be thrown out or to go out, when you have Tim Wanyonyi, a leading gubernatorial candidate for Nairobi, saying I can no longer have confidence in the Orange Democratic Party and goes to Bungoma. When you've got even people come from Luo Nyanza, like Babu Owino, saying all of a sudden I have no space in Raila's ODM, I need to chart my own way. You are creating a situation where you're beginning to see an implosion of the Orange Democratic Party. And I'm saying this because it's not because that Raila has changed. It is because of the things that Raila is supporting consistently.
Okay, but is that I mean, I hate to whittle it down to right and wrong, but doesn't that just show that he's an astute politician who knows what he's doing? Here we are thinking that the rest of the world, and in this place, the world being Kenya, should have said, well, he fought for human rights. He fought for a particular political dispensation. But it shows that he was good at what he did. What did he owe the people of Kenya?
One of Raila Odinga's biggest political defeats came in a by-election in Musambweni, where he had advantages. And before the last election, he was so sure to win it. And he had sent out his pointman Joho and everybody to go and bring home the seat there in Ukunda. And when that by-election came, it went completely against what Baba had said. Now, we are going to be having by-elections on the 27th of December. A key among those by-elections is a seat in Malava. Malava has traditionally been an opposition zone when Musalia Mudavadi and the rest were in the opposition. And now, all of a sudden, because of the coalition agreements between Ruto and Mudavadi, Malava is seen to be a must win for the UDA. And of course, now with Baba there, they believe that they are going to win the Malava by-election. Now, for example, if the opposition go and win the Malava by-election, despite the combined strength of Mudavadi, Wetangula, Ruto, and Raila, that will be a major, major call about what is happening in Western Kenya. Should there also be a defeat of government in Embu, in Bere, where the combined UDA, 7 candidates have given in for the one of the opposition of the Democratic Party, then that will send several signals. I see 2 things happening in the next by-elections. Number one, if the opposition win Mbere and Embu and they win Malava, then there will be a big focus on Mudavadi and a big focus on Kindiki, who will be the right hand of Ruto, because none of them will be able to show they can carry a constituency. And in the middle of all that is Baba. So what role Baba will play in helping Mudavadi win the Malava seat is yet to be seen, but it's on the 27th of November.
As interesting as all of this actually is, we then ask questions that this political monopoly that's being played, that's being carried out by all the players, then it leaves the questions that Kenyans are asking hanging in the balance. That it's not necessarily that people want to come in and make good for the people of Kenya, but people want to come in and stamp the authority. I mean, just look at the narrative that you've given about Raila Odinga over the last 20 or 25 years in terms of what he has been able to do or achieve. The fruits that fall along the wayside is what Kenyans pick up. What happens to the rule of law and governance? What happens to constitutionalism? What happens to conducive environments for business and or work? What happens to health and safety? What happens to education and infrastructure? When all of these things, or are these campaign promises that end up being a means to an end?
You can only call it a failure of multi-party democracy because, multi-party democracy was meant to ensure that you don't have those failures. Multi-party democracy was to give enough choice to the public to elect people of quality and substance, so that when you have these kind of situations, the public had, let me give an example. When Wangari Maathai was elected as an MP, she stood on her own feet on the issue of the economy, but also in terms of ecology or the green movement. She was able to not only rise to become a Nobel Peace Prize winner, but to make Kenya very, very conscious about green forests, Karura, and all the things that come around with it. We've had individual people in this country like J.M. Kariuki who have stood for economic empowerment of the common man and were able to do it on their own feet. There are people who have come here, people like ministers like Michuki, who came and put, very, very high standards in ethics and work and left their ministries, standing better than they found them. So multi-party democracies from time to time create opportunity for individuals to rise and to be able to go against the status quo. What we need right now in Kenya, and one of the reasons I'm running for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat, is because there must be a break into this monotony. There must be a time where people stand up and say, hold on, I'm standing on my own feet. Because the way things are going, the country cannot go on this way at all. And I think that if men and women across the country, given where we have reached with the 2010 constitution, have the courage and, the weather to actually stand up and be counted, there can be a break to this. And I wanted to give you an example of how this has happened. If you remember Kivutha Kibwana in the last election, many people would say that Makueni was a good standard, that there was a county that was well run by a governor who was well within his means. You actually find Kivutha Kibwana having tea and soda in the normal cafe in town, because he never went there for enrichment. He never went there to grow his own personal self, but he went there to uplift Makueni. If you could have 10 Kivutha Kibwanas and others like that, it is possible to uplift this country. So where we are discussing these by-elections and why it's an important time to discuss them, it can be the litmus test. You can actually use by-elections like this that don't come often, and they come within the calendar of the political year, to send a warning shot to the political class that, look, there are going to be people who are going to be elected by the public who are going to uphold the standards of leadership and integrity. And for Kanu, we are running a candidate in Kariobangi North, and we are going to ensure that we say, look, it doesn't have to be this party or that party that takes ownership of Nairobi. We would want to see that political parties with the right candidate can actually run a candidate somewhere and win, and away from the clutter of, this grand government or the clutter of the grand opposition, that you can actually run a man or woman on the basis of his record and be able to win an election.
You spoke about breaking monotony, and you gave reference to quite a number of people who, like Kivutha Kibwana, said how he managed and ran Makueni County as the governor, as an example. But what exactly is monopoly in Nairobi politics today for you? What is it?
It's sadly the fact that, the corruption indicators that drive Nairobi seem to consume every governor since Kidero. That if you were to take all governors elected in Nairobi, their LCD is corruption. Because it just seems that everybody who has sat on that seat, the whole argument about governance comes back to the issue of money. How much is being looted? How much is not being done? How much is looted? How much not being done? Let me give an example of what I mean. From the Kidero time, it led to cases going to the IEBs. What do you call it? Anti-corruption.
Yes,
Anti-corruption.
EACC.
Yeah, and all of it was based on poor procurement, wastage, what you call pending bills, all the things that attract the wrong money. Then from there you had the Sonko. From Sonko, not only could he not finish his term, he was actually removed and replaced by a general, by his own government, by his own nominating party, on basis of misuse of public funds and the abuse of funds. As we speak now, the MCAs of Nairobi County are accusing their own governor of massive corruption. In fact, they are saying that Kidero and Sonko combined, so Sakaja has done more. So there is this appetite in Nairobi to loot this city and not to give any services. And the reason around it mostly is based around pending bills, based upon awarding of planning and urban planning contracts and things that require or forensic tests in order to tell the authenticity have never been done. So we have a situation where Nairobi is by far the most corrupt, the most mismanaged county in the country, and the person who is there is just incapable, right from his academic papers to his type of governance. Justice Sakaja has really been overwhelmed by the county of Nairobi.
Before we come into the intrigues of Nairobi, because yesterday, of course, then looking into conversations around what Nairobi needs, let's go back to the political parties. We know for a fact that most of the time political parties are the vehicles through which individuals then will get to a position of leadership that they seek. Not often in Kenya do we see the ideological side of political parties being practiced, that you will not then be able to say that, well, the party is speaking for this position, whether it is on nationalism, patriotism, foreign policy, or whether it is on economics or development. We don't, in Kenya, the political parties don't carry that kind of agenda. Usually it is a vehicle to achieve a position or to maintain and or exceed political expediency. Okay, so that could be a model that Kenya decides that it's going to go with. That's all right. So Kanu is one of the oldest parties in the country. And we know that it was the party. We also then, much later on in this political arena, saw that Kanu now buddied up with others and formed part of Azimio. Is Kanu out of that? I mean, as Azimio, as a political giant, this monolith of people no longer exists for all intents and purposes. So where does that leave the party in terms of what it's then being able to do? You've already told us that you'll field a candidate in the by-election. Is it a party still being looked at for, participation?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, Kanu never signed a memorandum of understanding with parties to form a coalition government in the last general election. What Kanu did was sympathize with the opposition, but ran its candidates countrywide.
Okay.
I also want to agree with you that from the beginning, when independence was formed, Kanu came from something called KAU, the Kenya African Union for younger voters. And the Kenya African Union was then being led by Harry Thuku and them. And then Jomo Kenyatta took over with Tom Mboya, and they began to build the Kenya African National Union. At that same time, there was another body, the Kenya African Democratic Union, being led by Ronald Ngala and President Daniel Moi, which was called KADU, and they were running separately. Sometime in the little general election of 67, KADU and Kanu merged.
Yes.
And Odinga's Kenya People's Union split from Kanu. So that Jaramogi, who was the vice president of Kenyatta, began his own party, the Kenya People's Union. And it was seen then to be a socialist party whose ideas were left of center. And Kenyatta's Kanu and Tom Mboya were seen to be more like capitalist kind of party that was right of center. And at that time, there was this divide of the East and the West. So Jaramogi was seen to gravitas towards Russia and the East, and Jomo Kenyatta towards the democracies of the West. And that is how the politics of 67 began. As those politics went on, then Kanu was continuing to become a dominant force, and Jaramogi Odinga became an opposition figurehead, to the extent where Kenyans now can remember to the multi-party clamor. At the time for multi-party clamor, there was Jaramogi Oginga as a dawn of the opposition, and against the prevailing Kanu of then President Moi. And so that gives an idea where that divide began. And then it was during that election of post the multi-party democracy that then this coming together of politicians began. But coming to Kanu, Kanu always remained distinct and decided to become a party on its own and stand on its own feet. In the last election, Kanu lost the Baringo gubernatorial seat, which belongs to Senator Gideon Moi, and then it went into a bit of a lull, but still retains members of parliament both as MCAs and parliamentarians. So at the moment, Kanu is focusing itself to come strongly in the next elections. Kanu is preparing for elections at all levels of the country, from MCAs to MPs, governors, and a presidential bid. Now, the problems that Kanu has faced are no different from the other people facing the country, which is to bring young people and to energize the party in a way in which it can be modernized in order to take advantage of the realities to today.
So it's not currently modernized?
I think...
Still living in the past as a party?
I would say we are in the process by opening ourselves to saying that we have no predetermined leaders.
Okay.
We are not coming in and saying these are the leaders that you must follow, and nyinyi hamuna nafasi. In fact, as far as Kanu is concerned, Kanu has an open slate,
so Kenya,
and is ready to...
Okay. So Tony, Kanu is like a lot of what we heard of the movement, where they say leaderless, tribeless, kind of like an open system where, you know, we'll get there when we need to. Is that what you're saying? You
know, political parties are not run by men. They are not run by women. Political parties are ideologically strong.
Or they should be.
What happens is men and women are temporary holders of office in political parties. What holds political parties is the strength of their ideas. You know, when you open a church on Sunday, I don't normally see a sign, please walk into this church. When you open the door, and the faithful come into the church, and that becomes the strength of the church. It becomes how the church draws the people that come into it. Political parties define themselves, their ideology and their manifestos, and people then come into those churches, come into those parties for that reason. What Kanu is now doing, and what I'm doing this morning, is part of talking up the fact that the Party of Independence has been there since 1964. When it merged with KADU, that party has been reliable. It is not political. It's a national party. It is in every part of the country, and everybody can feel at home with the party, just the way in which Kanu feels at home in every part of the country. And so other countries have a warm tradition of having parties that have survived generations and generations. And we are proud to be part of that ongoing generation that was begun by Jomo Kenyatta, carried on by Daniel Moi. Mwai Kibaki was there. Kalonzo Musyoka is still a live member of Kanu. And so even Raila Odinga himself has been Secretary General of Kanu. President Ruto has been a member of Kanu. Kanu is a party where none of them in the political arena can ever say they were never part of it.
And yet, there is a need for it to be more robust in its activities in order for it as a party which would then carry individuals who want to take up a particular political position. It would then need the party to come alive. So it is not just the old faithful, you know, establishment in a shanty town somewhere that is not going anywhere. People know that they can go in there for a drink every now and then. It's never going to close, but it's always been there. But then there's a shiny new guy on the side of the street that everybody's flocking to. Does Kanu need to paint it?
Are you suggesting there is a more maverick person to bring into Kanu than Tony Gachagua?
I'm asking a
well,
question.
I'm just asking you. Listen, let me ask you.
So the question is, Tony,
yes.
Are you going to, you know, paint the walls and, you know, chuck some stuff from under the stairs and make it a little bit brighter for people to realize what's going on with the party?
Absolutely. I can tell you in the next few weeks, you're going to see a lot more, because we are going to be speaking very bluntly. We are going to be talking, power to the people, and we are going to be speaking truth to power. And the reason is because Kanu, by its nature and by its history, has got not only the locus standi, but the duty to ensure that we safeguard, particularly the Constitution. You know, the 2010 Constitution is a product of having allowed Section 2A to open up multi-party democracy. And to see the collapse of multi-party democracy is to see the collapse of the 2010 Constitution. We must make Kanu the party that stands by the 2010 Constitution. We must make Kanu the party that stands by the rule of law. We must stand Kanu to be the party that fights for the aggrieved and for the person who is trodden upon. We must make sure that the young people of this country don't have to jump from party to party every cycle, and that there can be reliability and there can be stability in there being a credible organization that has stood the test of time and one that can be inherited by their children and their grandchildren. So here in building this thing, it is something that I would want to leave behind and look back and say, look, under since independence in the 60s, Kanu has now got its strength back in the 1920s. And by the 1930s, Kanu is back and Kanu is roaring and Kanu is taken its place. That to me would be a beautiful testament of the current leadership that both I and Gideon Moi can try and bring to the table to ensure that this party can be seen, and not only seen, but can be had to be seen.
Well, let's talk about the by-elections. I saw a picture of you with the candidate that you're fielding for this by-election, and my question, I have several, but my first question is Kanu going to be fielding candidates for all this?
Yeah, but let me tell you about Kariobangi. You know, there's an interesting seat. That seat was left by a guy called Manuve. He was an MCA. He was bringing an impeachment motion against Sakaja, and then he died mysteriously. There's a lot of rumors as to how he died, but he was the one bringing the impeachment motion. He comes from Kariobangi North. Now, Peter Kariuki was a guy who was second. That's a guy who was now running against him, but then he could not get on the ballot because of UDA played him around. So he moved from UDA and joined Kanu. And so his name is Peter Kariuki Nganga, and he came to see me. We had several meetings, and we agreed that we are going to not only run him in Kariobangi North, I'm going to go myself personally and come in Kariobangi North, and we are going to vote as a litmus test to see whether or not Nairobi is ready to elect a Kanu MCA and whether Nairobi is ready to elect a Kanu governor or not. So he, as much as Peter Kariuki Nganga is standing, Tony Gachagua is also on the ballot. So lazima niingie huko kwa hali na mali na nifanye campaign ili tuone kama chama ya mama na baba tunaweza tingiza.
As you tingiza, that MCA level, MP level, is there a possibility you're also going to field the presidential candidate? Now that we are seeing alliances and party forming themselves around other coalitions.
I can tell you without fear of contradiction, Kanu is running a presidential candidate.
You're not going to be in a coalition?
Oh, no. By next year, there will be a major event. My friend, listen, what Tony Gachagua is doing ni kukata njia. Unajua, when you're coming now toward a major ocean, you must have a tributary that unafungua, otherwise maji itapotea kwa njia. We are rebuilding Kanu, rebranding Kanu, and I can tell you Kanu will be the last nail on William Ruto's coffin. You know, people are assuming the Rift Valley will be a place just for Ruto to walk around as he wishes. There will be a substantial presidential bid that is going to turn the politics of the country on its head. Right now, people are rearranging themselves that who is going to run. I'm sure people are talking about my good friend Rigathi G, Rigathi Gachagua. People are talking about Kalonzo Musyoka. People are talking about my good friend Eugene Wamalwa. People are talking about Matiang'i. But people better know and prepare that without any doubt, Gideon Moi is a candidate for president come 2027. Now, I am telling you, Kanu will be ready, and Kanu will give William Ruto a run for his money.
That's official.
That is official. I'm speaking officially on Kanu's permission. And
for our candidates. Security and national concern. Fellow Kenyans, as a party, we are deeply concerned with the security situation in northeastern Kenya and particularly in Mandera County. We have spoken not once, not twice about our diplomacy and Kenya's interference through William Ruto on external affairs of other nations, including Somalia, Sudan, Southern Sudan, DRC, among others. The Constitution of Kenya, Article 1, reminds us all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. Yet today, That sovereignty is under siege from foreign forces and a leadership too timid or too compromised to defend it. The Democracy for the Citizens Party therefore registers its deepest outrage at the continued presence of a foreign militia from Jubaland entrenched in Madera County and its environs. This is not just a policy misstep, it's national betrayal. Kenya, once an island of peace and stability in the Horn of Africa, has now been reduced to a staging ground for foreign forces and rival militias. This is a dangerous affront to our sovereignty and a mockery of sacrifices our gallant soldiers who fought for decades and shed blood to secure our borders. Let it be known, Kenya is not for sale, and for not an inch of our soil shall ever be occupied by foreign powers. Bwana Ruto, you shall not sell our hard-earned freedom for a mess of pottage. We the people shall reclaim it. The Constitution of Kenya, Article 238, Sub-Article 1, states, national security shall be pursued in compliance with the law and with utmost respect for the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. And Article 241, Sub-Article 3, makes it clear the Kenya Defence Forces, KDF, shall defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic. The silence from the Commander-in-Chief is all telling. Little can be left for guesswork. If William Ruto's recklessness and casualness as militia from Jubaland continue to wreak havoc on the Kenyan soil is anything to go by, he must be advised that the presence of foreign militias in Mandera County is a direct violation of international law and a breach of Kenya's diplomatic obligations. DCP party therefore demands with immediate effect, 1, that Jubaland militia and all foreign militia be flushed out of our country and the Kenyan soil with immediate effect. 2, that the learning institutions in Mandera closed due to invasion by the Jubaland militia and other terrorist groups be reopened immediately and learners be provided with security without fail. The children of Kenya should not pay the price for cowardice or business interests of William Ruto and his allies. Number 3, that the KDF be allowed to discharge its full constitutional mandate without interference from corrupt individuals in the executive who seek to mortgage Kenya's sovereignty for personal gain. Mr. William Ruto, we are putting you on notice that Kenya's territorial integrity is sacred. Our sovereignty is not negotiable. If you cannot defend the people and the Republic of Kenya from foreign invasion, not forgetting your bloody track record over the last 3 years, you know the honorable thing to do. I urge the patriotic people of Kenya to stand firm and defend our Constitution, safeguard our sovereignty, and protect our children's future before it is too late. The freedom we enjoy today as a country was never given to us. Our parents went into the forest and shed blood. The DCP party reiterates that our commitment to Kenyans is anchored in justice, fairness, democracy, and accountability. We shall remain steadfast in defending the rights of all citizens, working with partners under the United Opposition banner, and ensuring that the will of the people is respected, protected, and fulfilled. God bless you. God bless Kenya. That's good. Sound?